morning, church. It's been an awesome weekend already. Why don't we stand up together as people are walking in? We're going to start our service off praising the Lord, start our day off praising the Lord. Let's put our hands together.
Come, let's bow at his feet. He has done shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Come on! There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. There's no shadow you won't light up, mountain you won't climb up, coming after me. There's no wall you won't kick down, lie you won't tear down, coming after me. Still you give yourself away. Oh, the overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God.
What an awesome God we worship. What a loving God. I was reading this verse yesterday, Psalms 20, verse 7. It says, some trust in chariots, some trust in horses, but we trust in the name of the Lord our God. I love the confidence in that. What are you trusting in this morning? What are you putting your hope in this morning? We're going to sing this next song, My Hope, that I wrote, and we've been singing it for a few times here. And when I wrote this song, it was during a season just a couple months ago where when I look back, I can recognize now that I was going through some depression that I think I was pushing down. I was going through some caused by doubt, a lot of doubt. I think some of us can relate with this is, am I good enough? Am I a good enough husband? Am I a good enough son? Am I a good enough father? Am I a good enough friend? I think those questions were swirling around in my head, and I was looking back and I just felt so much regret at different points. And I started singing this chorus, just this is my hope, the God of my salvation. I just started singing this thing, and I was just declaring it over my life, and I just felt like God was just saying, yes, keep singing that. Sometimes we need to preach to our hearts, right? Sometimes we need to preach to our own hearts sometimes. Through scripture, through singing over yourself, singing truth over yourself, over your heart. And that's what we're going to do in this next song. So if you're in that place like I was, if you're there this morning, just feeling like less than, feeling like, am I good enough? I would challenge you, and I would ask you to rethink what you're putting your identity in, what you're putting your hope in. Is it in things of this world? Because that's exhausting. You're going to be exhausted by that. It's going to tire you out. Make a decision right now to say, God, I'm going to put my hope in you and you alone. God, I'm going to point my heart to you and reorient myself to you this morning as I sing this song. Make that decision in your heart. Sing this over your life. Declare it to God as we sing this song. There's a hope that calls me close, a love that knows my name, the majesty of heaven, whose hand is holding me. He rolled back death and stone as darkness ran to hide. My soul sings hallelujah, my future now in Christ. Let's sing this to him, sing it over our lives. This is my hope, the God of my salvation, the one who moves the mountains. My strength is in the Lord. Though trials still may come, my weapon is his strength. Some really cool announcement to share with you guys. This Tuesday, Easter season is upon us. How awesome is that? this Tuesday we're doing auditions for to put together an Easter choir for this Easter, for the Easter services. So I'm really excited about that. It's going to be amazing. If that's tugging at your heart today, if you love to sing, please sign up. I would love to have you with us. So check it out on the screen right there and sign up through the website. Listen, you have some awesome people standing next to you. Why don't you turn, say hi to one another, move around your rows so you can have a seat.
Well, good morning, Mariners Church. You guys, happy St. Patrick's Day. You guys look fabulous in your green out there. Well done. I like that. Jacqueline, I don't see any green on you.
I know. I'm not very fun. I forgot the green. You guys are all wearing green. You guys are way more fun than me. How many of you, though, did anybody make anything green? Eggs, pancakes? Any food? No
That's
one?
not really a thing, I don't think.
Come on, I think it should be a thing. No one this service either. Man.
Like maybe sometimes we'll have Lucky Charms at home, but that's about the extent of our,
Pancakes.
Yeah, okay. Well, you can go make some green pancakes. It'll be great. My name's Tim Keller. I'm the Connect pastor here. Really excited that you're here to join us this morning.
And I'm Jacqueline. If this is your first time, we just want to say welcome. We are so glad that you joined us today.
There's a few ways to connect with us here at Mariner South County. We have a great app. It's the Mariner South County app. You can follow along in the service. You can find out information about what's happening here at the church and get signed up for stuff. We also have a great website. And then Jacqueline and I will be on the patio after service. We'd love to connect with you and help you take your next step.
One thing you may not know about this church is you are sitting around some incredibly generous people. Every great thing we do here is done by great volunteers. The things you love about this church, people are generously giving their time to making your experience the best possible, whether for you or your kids or your students. And more often than not, when we go to thank them, thank you so much for all you do, their response is, no, you don't understand. This is an even bigger blessing for me to be a part of this, a way for me to care for people, a place for me to belong in this church. And this morning, some of you might be sitting here and that's exactly what you're looking for. Serving is a blast and we would love to serve alongside of you. So if you would like to join a team, you can sign up on our app as Tim talked about, or you can sign up on our website. We would love to serve alongside of you. I love being part of a generous church. There's nothing more contagious than being around generous people. Proverbs 11 says, a generous person will prosper. Whoever refreshes others will be refreshed. And God calls us into a lifestyle of generosity, not because he needs something from us, but because of what it does to our heart and our relationships. And oftentimes we leave feeling more blessed because we were generous. So this morning, as we respond in giving, this might be a step saying, God, I want to be about what you're about, and so I trust you with this tangible gift. And when we are generous with our finances, we get to partner with all that God is doing in and through this church, bigger and greater things than anything I can do or you can do on your own.
That's right. And there's so many things happening in the church that we want you to know about, and so many great things. And I want to highlight a couple of those things. First of all, we have an amazing team that put together our women's ministry and our men's ministry. They're absolutely, they're heroes. They do all kinds of great stuff. We have a new women's study that's starting on Wednesday mornings. It's our spring study. You can go online and sign up for that. Our men's studies are ongoing, and so you can find out all the information about that in the places that we said already. But I want to let you know about something pretty cool that's coming up in May. It's our annual men's retreat that we call Man Camp. Yeah, that's right. So there's some guys that are going to Man Camp. You guys, so if you are a guy, if you're with a guy, or if you know a guy, all the guys that are in this church need to be a part of what's happening at Man Camp in May. It's going to be absolutely amazing. We're going to do all kinds of guy stuff. We're going to connect with each other, connect with God, do some fun activities out there. It's going to be absolutely amazing, and you want to be a part of it. Now, I need to let you know that this weekend is the last weekend for our early bird pricing. So if you want the discounted price, because you know you're going, so if you want the discounted price, sign up this weekend. If you want to pay more, that's fine. Just wait an extra couple days, and the price will go up, and you can pay more. And there's some great, part of our team is out there on the patio. They're going to be serving hot dogs and hot links and all kinds of stuff to get you guys excited about Man Camp. And you need to ask the team out there, what is this Mancathlon? We do something called Mancathlon. You need to know about it. Tons of fun. We'll look forward to seeing you on the patio.
I'm terrified, but you guys should ask about what that is. We are so excited to have Jeff McGuire continue our series, Unexplainable and Undeniable.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Hey, good morning, everybody. Good to be with you guys. Excited about stuff happening. We're all adjusted to the time change. You were smart enough to come at 11:30 last week, probably. Or maybe you're usually a 10 o'clock person, then came at 11:30 and thought, I'm doing this from now on. However it is, we're glad that you're back. If you're new with us, welcome. I know you could be out doing all kinds of fun stuff this morning. Thank you for joining us. I hope that you find this to be, just really, I'd say it this way. It's our honor to have you this morning. I hope you find it to be worth your time being here. It's our prayer that you would find a measure of restoration, a measure of hope in some capacity today. Whatever's kind of disorder, out of order in your life, maybe there's a little bit of sanity that you get from being here. Maybe being around some people, but I hope that today is one of those days you get to kind of put some things into focus. If you're new, as we say all the time, we certainly don't have all the answers. We don't have everything figured out. We're trying to follow Jesus and love other people like he did. Turns out those things are both really tough to do. So everybody has a next step. Wherever you might be, no matter how long you've been in the church, no matter what you know about Jesus or don't know about Jesus or however much of the Bible you've read or whatever, I just want you to know everybody has a next step in here. And in that sense, we're all kind of in the same boat. Now, last week, as the series got started, Jeff Priest got us started last week and really did a brilliant job at getting us kind of going into this, our sort of on-ramp actually into Easter, as we walk through the series. And as you look at the person of Jesus, there's a couple of things, couple of words really that kind of follow him around. So as you get a chance to take a look at him and his ministry at any particular time, what seems to follow him around are these two words, that he does things that are unexplainable, but that are also undeniable. Consistently, as Jesus is operating in his ministry, you see over and over again that he does these things that rarely make sense. People are expecting Jesus to be a certain way, or someone who is supposedly going to be like Jesus. They expect that person to operate in a certain way of doing things, and yet what he does doesn't really make sense. But on the other hand, what he does also can't seem to be ignored. And there's a part of us as we watch this person of Jesus who does all of these things, there's this kind of thing that happens, this kind of phenomenon that happens, where undeniable meets unexplainable. There's this kind of thing that happens. It happens all the time in the Bible. In fact, just a really quick example, you look at Matthew 9, for instance, Jesus just healed a guy. And Matthew 9, verse 8, here's what happens. Look what the crowd does. When the crowd saw this healing, they were filled with awe and they praised God. Now, what I want you to notice is filled with awe has a lot of different explanations. In fact, the Bible translators have all kinds of different ways they translate that phrase. Sometimes with the difficulty of translating from Greek into English to make it make sense, sometimes they have to go, well, it just looks more like they were afraid. So we'll say, when they saw this, they were afraid. Sometimes you get, they marveled at what he did. Sometimes you get the words as they translate it to English as words like frightened or awestruck. You get words like astounded or astonished, and frequently you get the word amazed. That people, when they see things that are unexplainable and also undeniable, in addition to potentially being afraid, they become amazed. Now, to look at Jesus is surprising because for some people, when they encounter something that he does that's unexplainable but also undeniable, some people see that as a moment. You watch in the Bible, and maybe that's for you as well. They encounter something that Jesus does that's unexplainable and undeniable. That causes them to take a step forward in their faith. Like, wow, I don't know how to explain that, but I can't deny it either. I got to step forward into that. Other people, when they encounter something that Jesus does that's undeniable but unexplainable, because they can't explain it, find it as a reason to go, I'm not sure that actually happened. Almost that people could miss out on something undeniable because it can't be explained. And I think for a lot of us, maybe that's you, maybe for a lot of us in here, maybe more than we want to admit even to ourselves, there's a lot that we can't really explain about Jesus and that we really want to be explained. In fact, there's a lot of our lives that we can't explain that we really feel like we need to explain. In fact, I would say there's probably something within us, our need to explain stuff probably reveals something about us, which is really important to consider. In fact, I think it stems all the way back to maybe when we were young. I think when I was thinking about this message, I was thinking about my oldest son when he was like in 4th grade. He learned about tornadoes and he's heard about tornadoes and was terrified of tornadoes. He just thought a tornado was going to kill us at any moment. Now, we grew up in Irvine. This is where he grew up, in Irvine, California. It's like, it's right there. It's not like it's far away. It's not like my wife grew up in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and in Texas, and she knows about tornadoes. She has stories. I don't even think they're true. But she has these stories about the house, the roof of the house being torn off. She has a story. She swears it's true. I don't believe her at all. But there's a kid riding his bike. Tornado picks him up and drops him a street over. I'm like, that's a local. She's like, that happened. A kid was fine. He just got on his bike, got picked up, put down. Yeah, was his name Dorothy? Did he have a dog? But in any event, My son's terrified of tornadoes, so he goes to the library, our school library, and gets as many books on tornadoes as he can. He wants to learn all about them. Then he does the same thing about earthquakes, because his belief about earthquakes is as soon as he hears about earthquakes, which we do ever. By the way, do you remember, like, there actually was a tornado in Irvine like 15 years ago, and it like broke someone's rose bush. And it was like, the news helicopters, like, there was a tornado and it landed right here, right there is where it landed. I mean, they're down to this tiny specific thing, acting like it's the most dangerous thing that ever happened. And I'm like, everybody who, all of us are like, yeah, the Santa Ana winds are worse than that tornado. But anyway, so then he finds out about earthquakes, and he thinks, I know about earthquakes now, Dad, and I know that at any minute, and this is when he's in elementary school, there's just gonna be a crevice will open up and swallow me. I'll be riding my bike, and then shunk, I'll just go right down into a little like crevice, and I'll disappear forever, because that's what earthquakes will do. Checked out every book on earthquakes. Did the same thing with volcanoes. And somehow he became fascinated because he was so terrified with the idea of volcanoes. He was like, I just know there's like a flaming caldera of lava underneath where we are right now, and any minute it's going to spew up and kill us all. I mean, this is what we kind of live with. And he learned all of these things. He started to get all of this research about all this kind of stuff because he couldn't explain it. He was terrified of it, right? And then it's sort of connected to this idea of what I think all of this is kind of connected to the idea, which is why little kids know how to pronounce the names of dinosaurs. I mean, if you don't know how to pronounce a dinosaur name, ask a 7-year-old. They know. And they'll tell you exactly how to say it. And when you try to say it back to them wrong, they'll correct you. And part of that, we kind of know, is this. There's something about a little kid when they're able to name an otherwise like nameless, humongous prehistoric beast, and they can conquer the name, they in some way or another actually be able to exert a measure of control over that animal. That's now this was a faceless beast, but now it has a name, which gives it control. And that's really our issue. A chance to be able to have some kind of control over a thing. To name a thing gives us some kind of power or control over it. But that's really our stuff, isn't it? Really, a lot of our issues about our control. There's a percentage of all of our lives that's out of control. Some of us are kidding ourselves about how much is actually in control. Some of us are kidding ourselves about how much is out of control. Our sense of feeling of control goes up and down through different seasons of our lives. We're out of control. We have little babies. We're in control when they're in 3rd grade. We're out of control when they reach high school. It's just like this up and down, all this kind of stuff. We're dating someone, everything seems fine. Then we're starting to think about getting married. It gets out of control. Then it's in control. This is our lives. We just live with this kind of up and down of experience of sometimes we're in control and sometimes we're not. And what happens is, in fact, I was listening this week to a podcast, and a guy's being interviewed who's a psychologist. And he says, the interviewer asks him, he goes, hey, it seems like that we're just because of things are kind of out of control and the world's kind of crazy. And he goes, it seems like more and more, there's more people suffering from anxiety and depression that's somehow connected to some of that stuff. And he goes, yeah, it's true. And actually my own family, like we have, anxiety and depression runs in our family. And so the psychologist answers back, he goes, honestly, I'm actually surprised that there isn't more of it. He goes, I look at the world and imagine what people have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. I'm actually more surprised that there's not more of an experience of ongoing anxiety or depression or panic or all those kinds of things. He goes, the very act of living, because we're so out of control, is in itself a heroic act. That we would get up every single day and do the things that we do. He goes, that's actually kind of a heroic thing. And in states of disorder, however we might feel those things, when things begin to be a little bit out of order, in states of disorder, we all ask ourselves the same question. Now, we may not know that we're asking ourselves the same question, but we are. We may not even know this is the question that we're asking, but this is all the question we ask when we feel as though things aren't in control. What we ask is, where is the ordering thing? Where's the thing that if I could get a hold of it, it would place the rest of my life in order? Because I'm experiencing disorder or chaos, I just got to find the ordering thing. Now, oftentimes, another way to say this is this: what's the one thing that will bring order to the disorder that I presently suffer? And we will seek the ordering thing for the disorder that we feel most acutely in our lives. We will seek the ordering thing for the disorder that we feel the most acutely. In other words, we feel it the most in our lives. Doesn't mean we're going to pick the most important thing. It just means we're going to find the ordering thing that gives us the most sense of order for whatever we feel most out of order. That's always what we tend to do. In fact, I was watching, my youngest son was trying out for a soccer team recently. And when some of you have ever tried out for anything, any sport, you tried out for an orchestra, you tried out for a drama thing, you tried out for whatever in your life, there's always this sort of scenario that happens, but you get all these kids together of all these different ability levels, you'll at least be able to connect to the concept. But they got all these kids together, there's hundreds of kids out there, and my youngest son's probably in the middle of this group of kids. And they got kids who are like gonna be future Olympians. You could tell, just looking at them, they walk up the field, it's like, that kid's gonna be an Olympian. And then you got other kids on the other side of the spectrum who are like, yeah, soccer, and they got their shin guards on their arms, and they're like, this is awesome, this is like Ninja Turtles, and they're running around doing all this stuff. And that's kind of their thing. So you got both sets of both groups of kids, and they put all of them on the same field. And there's no coaching or no instruction or anything else. They just go, you group of 12, you're on this field, you group of 12, you're over here, and you're gonna play a little 6 versus 6 game, and you're gonna run around and see what happens. And they got, there's also, and inevitably, and I coached soccer for a number of years. I coached high school soccer when I was in my 20s. I mean, I know soccer. I love it. It's great. And I've coached my own kids. And I'm like watching my son, and everything he ever learned just was like, forget it. He walks out there, runs around. As you guys maybe have seen little kid soccer before, all they do is chase the ball. There's no rhyme or reason. There's no organizational factor. They just run around, chase the ball. The Ninja Turtle guys are running around, kicking each other and blocking stuff with their hand. And they got that going on. And then there's this, because it's all random, and there's as egalitarian as they should be, they just get everybody together and go, everybody, this group, go there. Now they should know, a kid wearing the shin guards right here, maybe doesn't belong in the Soaring Eagles kind of group here, or whatever they got, whatever the name is. It's like, let's give them a little chance to learn some stuff first, but they got everybody together. Now, groups run around chasing the ball and stuff, and there's this one kid who they could have automatically, all the parents are like, oh, we know that guy's the best. He walks out there. He walks differently than the rest of our kids. All the rest of our kids run like kind of floppy. This kid runs like, hair's perfect, slow motion, hair flip, whoosh, it's just, everything's perfect for this kid. He's wearing the right pants. He looks awesome. He gets the ball, and the kid, it's like he ends up with the ball, and he's just automatically calm. He just moves like this. He acts a little bit more. A kid comes out, the Ninja Turtle guy, flying kick at him. He just avoids him, moves over, no big deal. Passes it to some guy. Everybody starts making space. They're no longer chasing the ball. When he has the ball, things start working. He passes the ball to my son. I'm like, whatever you do, son, don't give it back to that guy because he's better than you, and just to keep him, whatever. Try to go over there and kick him in the kneecaps, and no one's looking. But I'd never say that. I would never think that. A little I did, maybe. I just felt like, get a little insecure because obviously what 10-year-olds do on the soccer field reflects about my own personal worth and value. So I needed him to do well. So he gets the ball, and he's making some plays, and pretty soon, it's like the team is organizing itself around this one kid who is incredible. And they just find him. And no coaches are like, give it to that guy. The kids don't need to be told that. They're like, he's on my team, you get the ball. And it's amazing. They start figuring stuff out. Not long after that, of course, after like 3 minutes, the coaches, and by the way, all the parents are biting their tongues trying to get their kids. I'm whispering to my son, like, go over there, like trying to coach him and stuff. Of course, there's no coaching going on, but there's an illusion that I think there's coaching happening. The actual coaches walk over. They take the superstar kid, and they take him up. They're like, hey, we need you to go up to that field over there. That's the one with the jacuzzi and sort of the relaxing lounge there, and all the people take care of there. Any food you want's up there. Just, you go up to that field. That's where you belong over there. And then it's like, then as soon as that kid leaves, it's all chaos again. It's just chase the ball around, kick each other, run around, pick up the ball, throw it at your friend. Doesn't matter. That was what happened. It just broke down into chaos again. The point is that wherever we start finding ourselves to be out of control, we find a thing that puts things in order. We're longing for things that will give us order. And everybody in the world, in this room, not in this room, is trying to find a way to put things that are out of order into order. We'll find a principle that will adapt. We'll find a person we can emulate. We'll adopt a philosophy to give us a worldview to make things make more sense. We might even, in some way or another, we might try a new practice of a particular thing that we could just implement that would give us order. We're longing for that kind of thing. And we're doing it all the time. And when we can't find ourselves in order, a lot of times what we'll do is this. We will find something else completely unrelated to the disorder in our lives to put into order. We feel chaos and disorder over here, and we just find, we don't know how to deal with that, so we find something else over here to put into order. And we make that the most important thing that needs to be put into order. Some of you you might be this person. Some of you know with an incredible, unequivocal conviction that you're supposed to load the dishwasher in a particular way. That things belong in a particular order. And you watch someone else, you might live with another person who just simply puts stuff in there. If you can close the door, that's good enough. And that's all that they care about. And you've had a conference because you open the fridge, you open the dishwasher up and the stuff's all random, and you're like, all right, household conference by the dishwasher right now. Here's how it's supposed to look. The bowls go here, plates go this way, cups, everything. You make it all, everything has to be perfect. Some of you live with that person. You know exactly what I'm saying. You're already elbowing them like, see, you're crazy. I knew it, right? Oops. Some of us will do this other thing. Some of us will do this. Some of us, we'll go, if things are going a little crazy, we're going to organize the closet. You know, we're feeling a little crazy in some interior part of our lives. It's kind of messed up a little bit. You know what we got to do? Got to color code all the shirts. Get them all in order. Alphabetize the drawers. Some people do that. Some of you, when you start experiencing chaos in your lives, you'll make a checklist. How many of you guys, just show of hands, are checklist people? No reason to be ashamed. A lot of people are like, I know it's a weakness. It's not a weakness. How many you've really been, go ahead, one more time. Checklist people. How many of you guys on your checklist when things are really out of control, the first thing on your checklist is make a checklist? Yeah, there you go. Right there. Some of you guys are like, you know what? I've accomplished a thing today. I listed out some stuff and I took care of the first one. Right? That's you guys. For me, I'm not really necessarily like a meticulous car cleaner person. I just find that that's the area where I get the most reaction for me. That's for me. Now, we have a 15-passenger van. We have 3 children. It does not justify a 15-passenger van by any stretch. And I'm a church guy. I knew another guy at another church who was selling his church, was selling his van. I'm like, I'll buy it. So I have this church van. And by the way, the only way to justify having a 15-passenger van is to have like 11 children. So we have no justification for this thing except that we just have it. Here's the thing. Those of you guys who are parents, those of you who are going to one day be parents of little kids, you're going to have this fight with your kids. Some of you know what this is like. Been on road trips with your own brothers and sisters. You know what this is like. There's always a battle to get more space between the children. Every one of my kids has the equivalent of 3 individual seats. They still fight about how much room they get in the car and who gets to be around them and what seat they get to be on. It never ends. 15-passenger van, not big enough. Okay, now back to this. The kids are in the van, and I realized that we got food in the van. Like, there's food happening in our van all the time because, you know, basically we have enough. You could hide stuff in there. You could make supplies there for a disaster. I mean, it's just, there's all kinds of room in there. So there's food in there. There's like there's goldfish, there's little water bottles, there's all kinds of stuff in there. And I'm like, all right, that's it. Here's the deal. No more food in the van. It's just disgusting. Well, I can eat food in the van because sometimes I have to run a little late to work and I got to eat something. But no more kids eating food in the van. One of my kids left like a chocolate thing in the cup holder, which not a big deal when, you know, it's like 40 degrees like it has been for a couple weeks here. But when California decides to be California again, like today, all of a sudden that little chocolate thing is wonderful when you pick up your coffee mug out of there and put, you know, you put on your hand or your shirt or you kind of it's like, oh, I hate my children. You know, it's all of a sudden I start saying this stuff. It's the worst stuff in the world. And pretty soon I'm like, there's no longer no children. We just don't want any children. No more children. People are getting rid of the kids. I'm driving the van by myself. Control, right? Some of us will make something. We'll just find something to make. You know, some of you are handy with tools or whatever. You're like, I got to make a new cabinet. You know, I just need to make a sawhorse for some kid we don't have or whatever. You know, a seesaw horse thing, whatever. I need to make something for a kid. I got to get something. I got to make it. Others of us will destroy things. We'll just find something to destroy. Maybe the thing we just made. Maybe that little sawhorse thing that someone else gave you. Like, I'm breaking that. You know, whatever. You just need something to break. Others of us, as we start thinking even more seriously, we'll start going, well, we'll go on a diet. We'll just, you know, I feel like I can put that under control. I'll go back to the gym. I'll get my own physical well-being under control. I'll start finding ways to deal with the sense of control in my life that I need. And when they get a little bit more serious, when those things we start feeling really desperate for control, we start doing other things to gain control. Some of us will find a substance to look at, something to give us some kind of sense of maybe dealing with our own mental state to regulate those things. That's actually a sense of control. You know, dieting becomes, at its worst, becomes an eating disorder. Seeking for some kind of physical perfection ends up becoming something overwhelming and obsessing. People who long for an escape, which is to control the environment, start running away and abandoning things. People begin to take all kinds of extreme measures to gain, to make, and find some kind of control in their lives. And you've seen it in all the most extreme examples, even in things like what we saw in New Zealand this past week. People going, I'm going to try to take control of a thing in the most heinous, awful way. And what we start to find out, and that's probably the best and most serious example, obviously, but the most serious example is this, is that one person's need to take control creates another person's chaos. Oftentimes that we see is when one person sort of has this need to take control of a particular thing, generally unrelated to the other more important thing that's going on in their lives, one person's need to take control often creates chaos in another person's life. One person's need to take control often creates chaos. And the question for us is, why do we keep trying to control these things? Why do we keep doing this? And all of us have our thing. It's just different for everybody in the room. All of us have something like that, but why do we keep doing that? And here's what we could probably gather from this is this. Controlling something outside of ourselves generally is an indicator that something within us is out of control. If you find yourself trying to find a way to bring order to something that's otherwise out of control, that really is nothing, that's really kind of meaningless, if you find yourself doing that, you find someone around you who's making a big deal out of something that has really nothing to do with anything really significant in your life or their life, if you find that in yourself or others, it's a pretty good indicator that something within us is out of control. I'd like to be a certain way. I'd like certain things to be in control. And when they start to feel like they're not in control, I just find something to take control over. Controlling something outside of ourselves is an indicator that something within us is out of control. Now, when we get to Jesus, we get to this person of Jesus, we get to this, unexplainable and undeniable person of Jesus. And what you see in him is like everything else that's beyond explanation, that there's no matter how undeniable he might be, if he's not explainable, then he ends up being sort of beyond our control. And that's troubling. Here's what I want to just submit today, maybe just ask you this question. What if the thing that we needed in our lives to bring about the greatest amount of order to our disorder is the one thing that we cannot control? What if the one thing that we needed to bring order to our lives, in some measure, great or small, whatever, is the one thing that we can't control? Because that's really what we're up against when we start talking about Jesus, who is not going to be controlled by us. Here's what it says in Mark chapter 1, verse 21. It says this: they went to Capernaum, and when the Sabbath came, Jesus went into the synagogue and began to teach. Now, really quickly, as a side note, Capernaum, this is on the north edge of the Sea of Galilee. By the way, you can, if you want to come with us to see this, everything we're going to talk about here is part of our Israel trip. We're going to go in November if you want to come with us. Everything we talk about in this particular message is actually, we'll take you all these places. It's very good. They're all kind of connected together, but you want to see this stuff. By the way, I think last week, someone pointed out to me that our Israel trip on the bulletin said November 19th through the 21st. So real quick trip over there. Just shoot over there for some lunch. They have great hummus. We'll get a little hummus, and then just back on the plane and head on back. So just a quick little trip, 13 hours. It's not a big deal, a flight. A little bit, be a little jet lag, but big deal. It's be awesome. So weekend in Israel. Okay, that's coming up. Now, we've since adjusted the dates. It's all corrected now. But anyway, if you want to go there, if you want to come with us, we'll take you there. Me and Jeff Breeze are going to lead a trip. That'll be awesome. Okay, anyway. They went to Capernaum, and when the Sabbath came, Jesus went into the synagogue and began to teach. So there's Jesus, a teacher in the synagogue. Here's what happens. The people were amazed at his teaching. Everybody say amazed. Okay, guys, when something's amazing, it would never be said like that. You would never say, it's amazing. You never say, it's amazing. You never say it is amazing. Okay, that's like, some of you guys remember the comedian Stephen Wright? That's what that sounded like. Okay? If you don't know who that is, that's what he sounds like. This is amazing. Okay, great. Now, try it one more time. Be fun, have fun, just say it out loud. Here we go, ready? The people were amazed. That's how it's supposed to sound at his teaching, because he taught them as one who had authority. Say authority. Perfect. I heard my own son louder than everybody else. Well done, Dylan. Now, not as the teachers of the law. So we're going to come back to this in a second, right? Yeah, these people are amazed at his teaching because they had authority, and he's not like the teachers of the law. Typically, when people are teaching in Jesus' time, they would say, so-and-so says this, so this is how we're supposed to live. Have you heard the teacher who says this? Jesus doesn't reference other people. He just says, this is what it says. That makes him as one who has a particular kind of authority. Now, then a man enters the scene. Okay, here we go. Just then, a man in the synagogue who was possessed by an impure spirit. Let me stop right there. In the Gospel of Mark, the Gospels are the accounts of Jesus' life and ministry. Excuse me, in Mark's version, he always uses the phrase impure spirit. Other Gospel accounts of Jesus use words just like demon. Or they'll use things like their unclean spirit. But right here, you've got an impure spirit. It's a demon who's possessing this guy. A couple things you also have to know. In addition to whatever torment a particular demon might bring upon someone, there's this other factor which is really important to know. That being possessed, at least at this point, we don't know if this guy's been identified as a possessed person. He will be in a second. But we don't know if he's been identified. But if you're identified as a possessed person, you're necessarily ostracized. They just go, you're gone. You can't be around us. Which we go, that sounds so mean. But just think about it for a second. If you're hosting like a Super Bowl party, you don't invite your possessed friend over. Well, this is our friend. He's possessed. He's going to say a few things that are a little weird, but whatever. It's no big deal. Hey, help yourself to the nachos. I mean, it's not how it's going to go. Right? You get why that would happen. But this is what it means. This person who's identified as someone who's been, quote unquote, demonized is going to be kept on the outskirts of society there. Now, Jesus is about to deal with this demon, this unclean spirit. But first, you have to know something else. The demons, like all other created things, reside on a particular kind of cosmic hierarchy, right? There are higher demons and there are lesser demons. There are lower these kinds of things. There are forces that are above and below. Now, any force that's above you has authority over you, if that makes sense. So a demon has, wherever it might be on the sort of cosmic ladder of hierarchy, has to determine over which other forces or spirits or whatever it has power over. So you have to know that going into this in a second. And one of the things that's also true is this. The way in which you can gain control over another demon is by speaking its name to control it. With me? So this is what's kind of known in this particular time. Check this out. So just then a man in the synagogue was possessed by an impure spirit, cried out, "What do you want with us, Jesus of Nazareth?" Two things you got to know. First is this, the us in this particular question, who is the what do you want with us? The us in this particular question is referring not to the man and his demon, or the demon and his man, however you want to describe it. It's referring, probably most scholars say, as if this demon is like a representative for all the forces of evil. Like, what do you want to do for us? What do you want to do with us? Now notice then, he next names the person Jesus of Nazareth, as if there's an attempt to gain control over him. Now, the expectation would be that because he's able to name him, he'd be able to have some kind of control over him. But turns out, it's kind of a little bit of a spoiler here, that's not really the case. The demon doesn't get to control Jesus. Here's what happens next. Here's what we know. Have you come, identifying who this person of Jesus is, have you come to destroy us? I know who you are, the Holy One of God. I know who you are, the Holy One of God. Now, this demon affirms Jesus' place on that hierarchy, that he's at the apex of this whole thing. That he identifies Jesus of Nazareth as the Holy One of God. Notice what comes next. "Be quiet," Jesus said sternly, "come out of him." And the impure spirit shook the man violently and came out of him with a shriek. Now, the ordering thing in this story, Jesus, brings order to this man's interior life, which in this case is a very literal demon, by silencing it and telling it to go away. The ordering thing speaks right into this, that whatever issues at the interior of this man's life tells it to shh, quiet, and go away. And it does. Notice the reaction of the crowd now. Remember, he's just teaching, and this happens. Verse 27, the people were all so amazed. Say, amazed. Amazed. All right, we'll try it with authority in a second. It's coming up. You get a chance for redemption here, coming up. People were all so amazed, they asked each other, "What is this, a new teaching? And with authority." Say authority. Authority. There you go, good. He even gives orders to impure spirits, and they obey him. Now, that's the second time we have heard that sort of two-word kind of thing there between amazed and authority. When you read your Bible, oftentimes you'll encounter stuff, you read things, and it sounds like, hey, we already got it, Mark, move on, find some new adjectives, we kind of figured it out, move on to something else, be a little more clever. That's intentional here. Remember, in the original writing, Greek, which is a form of Greek, there's no punctuation, there's no bold, there's no underlining stuff, there's no computer-aided graphics to point to stuff, there's nothing. All you got is just the words written. So oftentimes in the Bible, like for instance, in the Hebrew Bible, in the Old Testament, you get and on into the New Testament, you get pictures of God being described as holy. But it's not just God is holy. It would say something like this, and many of you know this. Holy, holy, holy is the Lord. You have to repeat things to be able to show how important they are. In this case, as you see these things being written twice, it's like a sandwich. The actual technical term for that would be an inclusio. Okay, so here's what it looks like. Verse 22 says this. The people were amazed as one who had authority. Verse 27. The people were also amazed and with authority. You with me? There's the sandwich. There's the two pieces of the bread of this sandwich. In the middle is going to be the thing that is explained or highlighted by these two things. Right, so if you're, this is the bread. If you're like a keto diet person, it's a piece of burnt cheese or whatever miserable thing you got to put on both sides of your sandwich. But in the middle here, the middle, whatever you want to put in the middle of your sandwich here, here's what it is, right? Here's the most important in the middle. Jesus of Nazareth, the Holy One of God, who cast out demons. The unclean spirit came. He commanded the unclean spirit and it came out. The interior, the meat, if you will, if you're a vegetarian, the lentil patty, the interior of this thing, whatever you want to call it, the interior of this thing explains the exterior and vice versa. Jesus, who has authority and is amazing, does this thing which proves it and identifies who he is, the Holy One of God who can cast out demons. The Holy One of God who can cast out demons also has the authority and amazes people. It works both ways. So the reason why Mark does this, if you ever encounter this in your Bible, it isn't that he ran out of words, it's that he's really trying to illustrate something even more critical. Verse 28, here's what happens. News about him spread all over the whole region of Galilee. As soon as they left the synagogue, they went with James and John to the home of Simon and Andrew. Simon also is called Peter. But they went to the home of Simon and Andrew. And Simon's mother-in-law was in bed with a fever, and they immediately told Jesus about her. By the way, you can actually go see this house. This is part of the tour. We'll take you right there, okay? Now, they tell Jesus about her. Not right now. Okay, we'll get hummus. We'll do that later. Okay, now, Simon's mother-in-law was in bed with a fever, and they told Jesus about her. So, what this also means is Simon's a good guy, because more than likely she's a widow, and there's no one else to speak for her, so Simon's like, you can come live in our house too, which is a pretty big deal. So he's taking care of this woman. He's very, very cool to do that. Here's what happens next. Now, I should say this. Remember, when people are healed of anything, they're being restored back to their right place, an ordered place of being. So it's not always that they're just healed and it's like, well, great, wonderful, I feel wonderful now. And now it's like, no, you're now being reincorporated into society the way things are. So now check this out. Here we go. Verse 31. So he went to her, took her hand, and helped her up. And the fever left her, and she began to wait on him. Now, some of us get a little hung up on the last part of that. I just want to make sure you understand. It almost sounds like Jesus went and healed her because they were hungry. Well, I know we've been doing the whole, we've been demon stuff and healing people and whatever. And so, it's get up and make us something. That's what it sort of sounds like. Yeah, it's hard casting out demons, make us some enchiladas. We're hungry. Let's get it going. Right? That's what it sort of looks like. And I just want to remember, don't lose this. What's important to catch is this. First of all, Jesus doesn't demand that she go make them things. It's not like, hey, I'm Jesus and go make me something. It's not what happens. Instead, she gets up apparently on her own after she's healed and just goes to do this, which means that's how she wanted to be. And in this house, her particular order, her particular way of being is to be that kind of person. And so she gets up to do that. It isn't that Jesus forced her to do that. It's that was the particular way of being for her. That was part of part of the way things ought to have been. She's being fully restored. That's all that's an indicator of. So again, story's getting out. That evening, after sunset, the people brought to Jesus all the sick and demon-possessed. The whole town gathered at the door. That's a heck of a party going on right there. Everybody sick, all the people suffering some kind of affliction from demons, everybody gathers at the door. Now, just for a moment, here's what these people know. That either they or someone with them is suffering some kind of affliction that makes things not as they ought to be. Some kind of pain, some kind of wound, some kind of unresolved chaos, something within them is not working. And they're aware of that, or they're aware of the people that they brought with them, that things are out of order. And the second thing they know is this, that the one who would bring order is just on the other side of that door. They know there's things about us that aren't as they ought to be. And they know that beyond that door is the one who could bring the order, could restore things to the way that they ought to be. Now, in my own mind, this feels like a really beautiful kind of image of the church in the most chaotic and sort of beautiful way. Because here's what you have. You have all these people who are gathered, this gathering of people, the whole town that's there. All of them have gathered. All of them are needing some kind of hope. And all of them have this singular preoccupation which says, if we could just get people to Jesus, then something great might happen. If we could just find a way to get these people around Jesus, that would be wonderful. That would be the best thing we could do. And there's this collective admission that things aren't as they ought to be, but if we could just get people around this person of Jesus, something might happen. It might be unexplainable, but we got nowhere else to go. There's this picture of about 700 years before Jesus, a guy named Isaiah who's a prophet. And a prophet, the best way to describe a prophet is just, it's a person who speaks God's words to God's people. And he's writing these words, and so God's voice to the people is this right here. It says, just really simply, come. All who are thirsty, come and drink. And I think this is a beautiful picture of everybody who is coming here, is just going, the town is essentially admitting, we're all really thirsty. And we don't have anywhere else to go, but we believe the source or the answer or whatever it might be behind that, this person is Jesus who can somehow deal with our thirst. And there doesn't seem to be a lot of hiding. It seems like everybody's collectively admitting we need this Jesus. And everyone's first and next step is just going to be toward Jesus. So here's what happens. And Jesus healed many who had various diseases, and he drove out many demons. And then he does some incredible stuff. Now this is already amazing. I mean, everybody who shows up there goes, I don't know what to do with the interior part of my life that's kind of in chaos. It's a physical wound, it's an emotional wound. People who are demon possessed are showing up like, I don't know what to do with this. And Jesus brings back into order that which was out of order. Now, apparently what's sort of happening is people are placing themselves underneath Jesus' authority to do what he said he would do. And they're beginning to find order, and things are being restored. And this is what sort of it says that everybody's sort of being healed there. He healed many who had various diseases, and he drove out the demons. And then he does a really incredible thing. Jesus seems to be a kind of person of all the kind of people you'd imagine, because all these people are placing their lives under his authority. And maybe the most surprising or unexpected or unexplainable thing that he does that's also undeniable is this really bizarre thing he does, which is he seems to do something different than everybody we know who has ever been given a huge amount of authority. Because some of you grow up, you have a resistance to the idea of Jesus simply based on the idea of your experience with people who have had huge authority in your lives. We see it all the time. Some people, maybe you grew up in a home with a kind of authoritarian figure who's kind of scary. Maybe you grew up with some kind of abuse. Maybe you worked for someone who was dictatorial in the way that they oversaw you, the way that they led. Maybe you've just simply seen the world and God. Anybody who gathers all kinds of power ends up being poisoned by it somehow. Because here's what we know about people who have all kinds of authority. What we know in our own experience. They hoard it for themselves. They're defensive about it. They attack people who threaten them whenever they feel threatened about it. They parade it around. And they just seem in some way or another to sort of demand that more and more people give them attention and authority. And yet Jesus seems, even on the cosmic level, to be not about that. When he heals people, often he'll say this thing, he'll do this one thing, and he says it here to the demons, which is kind of surprising. Which, by the way, the demons are always the first people to identify who Jesus is in the Gospels. People are always like, we don't know Jesus. Who's that Jesus? We can't. Who is this person? And the demons are always like, oh my gosh, that's the Holy One of God. It's the Son of God. Run away. Fear, fear, fear. That's always their reaction. Everybody else is like, we're not sure. I mean, even the disciples up until the resurrection, they're still like, I don't know, right? But the demons identify who he is. Now, Jesus seems to be saying, even at the cosmic level, I don't need all the fanfare. I don't want the fanfare. I don't need the parade. I don't need the attention.